The piece was inspired or commissioned to accompany a painting by Jonathan Green called Seeking. And seeking is a ritual that happens in Gullah culture, which, if people don't know, is the coast of South Carolina, parts of Georgia, and parts of, well, mostly those two coasts. The Gullah, Geechee, depending upon what area you're in, have been known for very strong African retentions. In fact, Gullah culture spawned the story Porgy and Bess that DuBose Hayward worked on. And Duke Ellington actually went to South Carolina because DuBose Hayward said, "You have to hear this music." And so he did. He went there to go to the praise houses. So in writing this piece, I was fascinated by the painting, and it was explained to me by Jonathan Green, I think himself, that in the seeking ritual, before you are fully accepted into the church, so it's a Christian, probably an Africanized Christian ritual, someone has to, the individual has to go into the forest or into the wilderness, as it were, for a week, hopefully to get communication from the ancestors. But at the end, they have to tell the women what they dreamed about.
Huh.
So kind of a spiritual rite of passage to be
Mm.
alone. There's some kind of obvious references to the Bible and kind of going into the wilderness. So when I wrote the piece, like looking at the painting, which basically is an image of the individual alone and seeing a light which might be an ancestor or something, I created a narrative of someone going into this space of spirituality and starting from something kind of soft and growing into maybe just going through the forest and all of the activity until you reach a point of kind of silence and spirituality. I wanted to reference and use Gullah music because it's very special, very unique. Um, Apparently, Gershwin decided not to use Gullah music specifically in Porgy and Bess, although the songs of the vendors is something that he heard when he was there, but he made up his own. So my piece, Messages, has some elements of Gullah music, which has a lot of cross relations. So you might have against each other at the same time, a lot of calm response in that music. And most importantly, there's a rhythmic pattern or different rhythmic patterns that are very syncopated that people play, clap, stomp their feet when they're performing. And I use those rhythms in the piece. On top of that, there's a recording from, I think it's Roots of the Blues called Church House Moan. And it's not from South Carolina, it's from, I think, Mississippi, but it's a recording of women in a church before the service started, just humming and moaning and tapping their feet. So in the piece, I put some of that element in there, which is kind of a feeling of anticipation for the spiritual arrival. And putting the piece together, I kept thinking, well, what does that sound like? What does the spiritual moment sound like? And I actually quoted Ascension by John Coltrane, which, if you don't know, is a recording of, I think, two ensembles, mostly doing free improvisation based on an opening idea. So if you're listening to the piece and you know John Coltrane, you might listen for an obvious quotation of an important American musician who is known for his spirituality and known that near the end of his life, he wasn't really writing and performing music for us. It was for a higher power. So
Mm.
I thought that's appropriate for the piece.